So I'm just saying. So please silence phones. Anybody need the restroom that's not familiar with the church, if you just go out the back doors of the main sanctuary, restrooms are to the left and right, men's and ladies' restrooms. After the event's over today, because Dr. Gates' time is very, very short with us. He's going to be in, he's going to be out. We're going to ask you to stay for refreshments and cake afterwards. We'll have cake, refreshments, fruit for those of you that don't like cake, but who doesn't like cake, right? Can you tell I like cake? But we invite you to stay with us, eat some cake, refreshments. Something that I didn't know till I got here this morning is that I was going to have this many the alumni members of the troop in the house right now. So we've got alum in the house from 2023, right? Guys that just eagled out last year or aged out last year, all the way back to at least, with Mr. Norman in the audience, about 1959, right, Mr. Tommy? Where's Mr. Tommy at? Where'd he go? When did you come to the troop? 1959? 58? Yeah. So anybody before then? So anybody before Mr. Norman's time in the audience? Okay, we might still have some people roll in here. They'll probably be like this. But that's okay too, right? Because we're celebrating 100 years of continuous scouting in Williamsburg. So we got about 2 minutes. I got scouts out on the sidewalk waiting for Dr. Gates, and then we'll get started. You can keep talking for a little bit. Mr. Jimmy, you're quick up there. All right, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me better now? All right. Dr. Gates, they told me earlier in the announcements that I needed to get further away from the mic. So, hey, good morning, everyone. I wanted to make a couple of quick announcements. Again, bathrooms in the rear, silent cell phones, please, and then cake and refreshments after we get done today. I'd like to welcome everybody to the event today as we continue to celebrate 100 years of continuous scouting in Troop 103. I also want to make special remarks today that it is Armed Forces Day today. So it is the day that we celebrate our men and women who are currently serving in one of the 6 armed services in our United States. I'm one of those old retired veterans guys. So you celebrate me on Veterans Day, you don't celebrate me on today's date. This is for those men and women that are currently serving in uniform. Special mention, we have 3 Eagle Scouts from this troop that are currently serving. Nate Denny, Eagle Scout Nate Denny, who is currently serving in the United States Army. Eagle Scout Nick Roshwag, who is currently serving in the Marine Corps. And then Eagle Scout Chris Monahan, who is also currently serving in the Army, along with his sister, who's 2 years younger than him, but she's an Army officer too. So again, today's the day that we remember those men and women that are serving in uniform. So if you see some of the men and women today as you go about your day, thank them for being in the volunteer services. We appreciate it. Again, thank you for being here today as we recognize the 100 years of continuous scouting at Troop 103. To get us officially started, I'd like to call our current SPL, Thomas Berquist, up to do an official opening. Thomas?
Please stand. Color guard, attention. Troop, attention. Color guard, forward march. Scout salute. Color guard, halt. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard, post the colors. Scout sign. Please join me in reciting the Scout oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. The Scout law. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. 2. Color guard dismissed. Please be seated.
Thank you, Thomas. Fantastic job, color guard. I wouldn't expect anything less, Thomas. Thomas has only got about 3 weeks left as the SPL, and then he's going to swap out with the gentleman who was carrying our national colors this morning, Mr. Clark Gasberry, as he takes the torch on the 2nd of June. Hey, welcome again to everybody. I have to say a special welcome to our Troop 103 Scouts. Thank you, Scouts, for being here and looking good, as always. If not for you, we wouldn't have a program. All right? So you guys just remember that. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have a program in Troop 103. Parents of our Scouts, I want to thank you for being here and thank you for the continued support. I got to thank our committee and our committee led by Committee Chairman David Wannabald over here. Thanks for the behind-the-scenes continuous support, Mr. Wannabald, from you and the committee. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the Scoutmaster Corps. These gentlemen, well, there's about 24 of us strong now in the Scoutmaster Corps that do the day-to-day operations here in Troop 103, campouts, road trips, historical stuff, you name it. I got 24 gentlemen that are rock solid and in the mix every day of the week. So I thank you, gentlemen, for your support. I would like to mention our VFW Post 4639 Black Knoll Chess, which is our current chartered organization, commanded by Post Commander Jeff Martin, and our chartered organization rep is Mike McCall. I'd like to thank the Williamsburg United Methodist Church congregation and the Board of Trustees for your continued support and for giving us this venue today. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our lead pastor, Pastor Dave Rocheford, here at the church. He recently had one of his sons, Eagle, out of the troop, and he's a staunch supporter of the troop. He's a repeat offender. He was here as an assistant scoutmaster back in the day and a leader, left for a while, came back to be the lead pastor of the church, and he's now serves as our troop chaplain. I want to thank Josh Clayton and Jimmy McCarter, who are on the church AV and video team that are providing support today for AV and audio and video. I want to thank Tanner Brayman and Mr. Eric Brown from the college for helping coordinate this event today. If it weren't for those two gentlemen putting up with me over the last 9 months, this day probably would not have come about. Thank you to the editor, Kimberly Root, and writer Allison Johnson of the Virginia Gazette and Daily Press for covering our anniversary celebrations this year so far, and we've still got more to come, so hopefully we can continue to get their support. We do have a writer and a photographer from the Gazette in the audience today, so Mr. Gates, if there's enough time at the end, they'd like 2 minutes with you, if possible, sir. And I don't think Tanner heard that because he's busy over there. I'd like to thank the members from our other scouting units. So I put the wide reach out to all the scouting units here in Williamsburg, which used to be part of the First Colony District of the Colonial Virginia Council. We changed the name so many times over the last couple of years, it's hard to keep up. We're now the Historic Triangle District, which we have our commissioner and our committee chairman for that district here as well. But I'd like to specifically thank those scouts and those leaders from the other units here at Williamsburg that accepted the invite to come here today, because it's not often you're going to get to stand or sit in a church and see somebody of Dr. Gates' lineage and stature stand before you and talk about his time in the troop. I would like to recognize a few other people if they are in attendance. So the first person I'd like to have stand, as I mentioned his name, former Troop 103 Scout. He's a former Troop 103 patrol leader. He's a former Virginia State Senator and local attorney here in Williamsburg, Mr. Tommy Normant. Mr. Normant, would you stand to be recognized, sir? Mr. Gates, Mr. Normant was before your time, so I don't know if you remember him or not. Longtime supporter of the troop and pastor of the Church of God at Williamsburg, Elder Howard W. Smith, Jr. I'm not sure if he made it in. It doesn't look like he made it in yet this morning. Okay. I'd like to call to stand the longest continuous serving active member of Troop 103 with over 54 years of service to this troop, our very own Assistant Scoutmaster for Camping, Mr. James C. Etchberger. And then the last person I wanted to force to stand this morning is our very own Scoutmaster Emeritus, the longest serving Scoutmaster of Troop 103 with over 30 years of service as the Scoutmaster, and he took over from Mr. Fuller when Mr. Fuller passed away in the early 1980. He had been a Scoutmaster, Assistant Scoutmaster for a long period before Mr. Fuller's death. When Mr. Fuller got ill, 78, 79, Mr. Nunn was the Scoutmaster, but just not in official status. So if you would, Mr. Nunn, would you please stand? The troop has a long and very storied history with the College of William and Mary. Many of our scouts have gone on to graduate from the college over the past 100 plus years. Many of the faculty members, to include past presidents of the college, have supported this troop before, during, and after their sons were in the troop. We have also uncovered historical evidence that the very first Scoutmaster of this troop in its earliest years was himself a student at the College of William and Mary while he was the Scoutmaster. Because of this storied history, I felt it only fitting and appropriate to have a current member of the college faculty introduce our special guest with us today as we continue to celebrate our 100 years of continuous celebrations. Please welcome College of William and Mary Professor, Chair of the Physics Department, and Assistant Scoutmaster in Troop 103 since 2010, Dr. Jeffrey Nelson.
Our special guest today, Dr. Robert M. Gates, was born in Wichita, Kansas on September 25, 1943. He earned the rank of Eagle Scout before earning a scholarship to attend the College of William and Mary. During his time at the College of William and Mary, he served as Assistant Scoutmaster for Troop 103. He earned his bachelor's degree in history and graduated in 1965. Dr. Gates served in the CIA for 27 years, culminating his service as Director of the Central Intelligence Agency from 1991 to 1993. He's the only career officer in CIA history to rise from entry-level employee to director. He spent nearly 9 years on the National Security Council at the White House. Before becoming Secretary of Defense in 2006, Dr. Gates was president of Texas A&M University, one of the nation's largest universities. Dr. Gates accepted an appointment and served as the 22nd Secretary of Defense from 2006 to 2011. He is the only Secretary of Defense in U.S. history to be asked to remain in office by a newly elected president from another party. In total, Dr. Gates served 8 U.S. presidents across both parties. On Dr. Gates' last day in office, President Barack Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, America's highest civilian honor. Dr. Gates has been awarded the National Security Medal, the President's Citizens Medal, and 3 times received the National Intelligence Distinguished Service Medal, and has 3 times received CIA's highest award, the Distinguished Intelligence Medal. In 2013, Dr. Gates was elected to the BSA's National Board and began serving as BSA's National President from 2014 to 2016. Dr. Gates also earned the Distinguished Eagle Award and the Silver Buffalo as a scouting adult. He is a Vigil Honor Member of the Order of Arrow and was elected 2017 BSA National Alumnus of the Year. Dr. Gates is currently a principal at the consulting firm Rice, Hadley, Gates, and Manuel, LLC, with former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice, former National Security Advisor Stephen Hadley, and Executive Director of the Aspen Strategic Group, Anya Manuel. Additionally, he is currently serving his second 7-year term as Chancellor of the College of William and Mary, his alma mater. He has served on various public boards, including Starbucks, Fidelity Funds, the NCAA, the American Council on Education, and the Boy Scouts of America. Gates has authored 4 books covering experiences at the CIA, at the Pentagon, leadership, and U.S. non-military instruments of power. Scouts, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Robert M. Gates.
Thank you very much for everybody, especially the Scouts, turning out on a rainy Saturday morning. Just a few words before I take a few questions. It's a real honor to be here with you on the 100th anniversary, the year for Troop 103. When I first became Assistant Scoutmaster in 1961, the First Methodist Church was still located over on Duke of Gloucester Street. And I think we moved into this church probably around my sophomore or junior year. It was a significant upgrade. I have a lot of great memories of Troop 103. It was first of all, it was a respite from my studies. It was a great way to get out of the dorm and get outdoors and so on. I don't think we had as much emphasis in the troop in those days on advancement as there probably is today. And by the way, my memory may be a little foggy, but I don't think Tommy Norman was before my time. I think he was during my time. Lots of memories of troop activities, visits to Gettysburg, to Washington, camping in the mountains, one particularly disastrous canoe trip down the Chickahominy River. We nearly rammed a very bloated dead cow floating in the river. We barely escaped catastrophe. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of support from the parents. One of the side benefits for me, coupled with driving a school bus, which I did for 3 years here in Williamsburg, I had 2 routes, an elementary route at Matthew Whaley, and then a high school route from James Blair. And one of the benefits of the scouting involvement and also the school bus was getting to meet a lot of parents in Williamsburg, and that meant a lot of invitations out to dinner. So that was also really great. I also served 10 years as national president of the National Eagle Scout Association. And I would tell those of you working for your Eagle today, it's a lot harder now than it was when I got my Eagle. For one thing, until the early 1970s, there was no project. So it was 21 merit badges, pass the Court of Honor test, and you were in. So the Eagle Scout project has become for Scouts sort of like the dissertation is for graduate students. You got a lot of people who get to life or to get through the end of everything except their thesis. And one of the things that many of the CEOs that I've run into across the country lament is they're very successful, they're very driven and so on, and they look back and they think, why didn't I have the grit to just make that last leap from Life Scout to Eagle Scout? And so it's one of the great disappointments of their lives. I guess the final thing I would say is that, next to the final thing, when I was sitting where you're sitting today, I had no idea what the future would hold. When I first came to William & Mary, I enrolled as a pre-med student. A D in freshman calculus took care of that. My father called from Kansas and said, "Tell me about the D." And I said, "Well, Dad, the D was a gift." And what I would tell new students at Texas A&M at freshman convocation was there are 2 lessons from that. One, you can be pretty smart, but if you don't work hard, you're not going to get very far, and you're not going to be successful. And the second is you can get a D in freshman calculus and still go on to make something of yourself. The final thing I would say, and this is sort of just an observation than anything else, when I was assistant scoutmaster, the kids were all the same age that you all are. And what gives me some pause is, as I look back, nearly all of those kids are now in their 70s. The difference between being 19 or 20 and being 12 or 13 is huge. The difference between being 80 and being 70 isn't that great. So I understand that there are a few questions that the Scouts have for me.
Dr. Gates, would you like to field questions in front of the podium, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'm going to give you this hand mic. All right. And then I'll ask questions back here if you want me to.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to address out there. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to Q&A real quick. So I asked all the patrols to come up with a single patrol question, sir. So I'll moderate. What we're going to do is the patrol that asked this question, I'm going to have them stand so you know who asked the question. So would the bandit patrol please stand up? Okay, Ben, you're not the only guy here, right? All right, sir, so the Bandit Patrol asked, what Boy Scout traits helped you the most to rise from entry level in the CIA to become the director?
So I love talking to CEOs and large audiences and so on, and they want to know about my management training, my leadership training. And I always enjoy telling them I actually never had a single leadership or management course in my entire life. I never went through a training program at CIA or any place else. The one and only place I learned leadership skills was in the Boy Scouts. And as I've described to a lot of very senior people all over the country, nothing teaches you leadership skills like being a 14-year-old patrol leader overseeing a bunch of 11, 12, and 13-year-old boys and trying to get them to do what they don't want to do, and you can't make them do it. That teaches you leadership skills. That's not a lot different than dealing with the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
All right, thanks, bandits. Next question is from the Kraken Patrol. Will the Kraken stand up? So the Krakens asked, sir, who was your favorite Scoutmaster and why?
Well, I would say two. One, when I was a scout myself, my scoutmaster in Wichita, Kansas was Forrest Beckett. Our family was very much involved in scouting. My brother, who's a number of years older than I am, and I are both Eagle Scouts. And Forrest Beckett was a fantastic scoutmaster, and like some of your scoutmasters, served a long time. The other scoutmaster that I'd have to point to is, in fact, Jimmy Fuller. I really had huge respect for him, and he was a mentor, he was a friend, he was a great scoutmaster. But of the handful of pictures I have of when I was assistant scoutmaster, every one of them seems to me to be of me with Fuller standing right behind me and me doing dishes on a camping trip. I haven't quite figured that out, but this troop was incredibly lucky to have, we all called him Mr. Fuller. I used to tell people, there are only two kinds of people that I don't ever call by their first name. One is presidents of the United States, and the other is my scoutmasters.
Absolutely. All right, thanks, Krakens. Hey, sir, just a side note, I saw that picture and I thought it was fantastic, seeing you on that camp out doing KP, and I was just going to, relate to you that my first couple years as assistant scoutmaster in this troop, that's all Jimmy Etchberger would let me do too, is dishes. So,
I should make one other, I've meant to make one other comment before I started taking questions. And that was, I got a list before coming here today of your Scoutmaster Corps crew, your assistant scoutmasters and other adults who are involved. And what really staggered me was how many of them had served in the military, and really blew me away was how many were on deployment to Iraq or Afghanistan when I was the Secretary of Defense. So I presumably signed their deployment orders. But you're very lucky as a group of scouts to have such incredible people as your leaders.
Cool. Thank you, sir. Next patrol, Dino Nuggies. Do I have the Dino Nuggies in the house? All right, sir. So the Dino Nuggies asked, what is your favorite memory from your time in the troop?
Well, it wasn't washing dishes.
That's the only one you have pictures of, though.
I think the camping trips, and particularly the ones where we went to the mountains. The interesting thing is I can't remember in the whole 3.5, almost 4 years I was an assistant scoutmaster, I can't ever remember going to the ocean as part of the troop, but we always went to the mountains. We either went to a historical place or we went to the mountains, and those camping trips in the mountains were really special.
Yep, that's what we still do today, sir. We're carrying on that legacy. I would also mention that, if we weren't here with you today, you know where we'd be? We'd be camping in the rain, which is what we do as rainmakers, right?
Yeah, our saying in the Pacific Northwest is there's no such thing as bad weather, just wrong clothes.
I think I lost you on the microphone right. All right, sir. So the next question is from the Flaming Arrow Patrol. Flaming Arrows, stand up. All right, sir, they asked, do you still use your scouting skills in your day-to-day life?
Well, not as much as I used to. Until not too many years ago, I did a lot of backpacking in the Olympic Mountains and Cascade Mountains of Washington State. And that was all about using skills that I learned in scouting. Now I just learn the skill, keep up the skills like tying a necktie and some other basics like that.
All right, good question there, Flaming Arrows. The Paw Patrol, please stand up. The Paw Patrol asked, what were your key values that helped you become successful at the College of William & Mary and the CIA?
I think that's a very simple, short answer, scouting values.
Yep. Absolutely. Good question there. Good question there, Paw Patrol. All right, the Instructor Patrol. It's the instructors and Green Bar Patrol, really. They asked, because, a lot of these guys are getting a little bit older, they're starting to look at colleges and stuff like that. They asked, what was the process like to join the CIA?
Well, first of all, it's long. And it took me, well, first of all, when I was in graduate school at Indiana University in 1966, I was doing a master's in Russian and East European studies. And in those days, CIA was still sending recruiters to campuses. So I met with a recruiter, a CIA recruiter, on campus, and my only objective was the possibility of getting a free trip to Washington, D.C. And sure enough, a few months later, I got a letter inviting me to apply and to fill out the 28-page form, including every place you'd ever lived, practically everybody you'd ever known, and so on. And when I graduated, when I was getting my master's, I actually had 2 job offers. One was to join CIA, and the other was to teach 7th grade history here in Williamsburg. And they paid about the same. And I decided, well, I'll always be able to teach, but I'll do this CIA thing for a couple of years, and then I'll go teach. I would tell you that, first of all, CIA hires people of every conceivable discipline, because in addition to having spies and analysts, they've got to have accountants and lawyers and scientists and technologists and engineers and so on. So you've got the Directorate of Science and Technology that comes up with all the gee whiz stuff and the stuff you see in the movies, and I can tell you we've got stuff that they haven't even thought about for the movies. And so people with all those technical skills, and then people who have language skills, people who, and generally speaking, what they look for when they're hiring for the clandestine service, for the spies, is not so much a specific set of skills as a personality, because you're basically going into a business where your job is to be the best salesman in the world. It is to persuade somebody else to betray his country to the benefit of the United States. That requires a heck of a salesman. And so it's personal relationships, the way you build personal relationships. And generally speaking, they don't hire very many people right out of college for that. They tend to, just like for the analytical side, they generally want advanced degrees. For the clandestine service, they look for stockbrokers, they look for business people. And the people who join are very interesting because they've done something for 5 or 10 years and they decide that's not the way they want to spend the rest of their life. They want to give to service. But it's a long process, and it just takes several months. I once accused the personnel people of making it long just as a test to see how serious you were about joining. But by the time they do all the background checks and everything else, it just takes a while. So if you're going to apply to CIA, patience is a virtue.
All right, thank you, Instructor Patrol. Last question, sir, from the Scoutmaster Corps. We asked, what guidance would you give to new Scout leaders joining the Scouting movement in the 21st century?
I think, first of all, while the numbers of Scouts are significantly less across the country than they were when I was a Scout and when I was an Assistant Scoutmaster here, the kids are much more focused and much more disciplined and have much greater persistence. So I'll just give you a statistic. When I got my Eagle in 1958, there were probably 1 million more Boy Scouts than there are now, and they awarded 17,000 Eagle Scout awards that year. The 2 years I was national president, we had 1 million fewer kids, and over 50,000 of them got their Eagle Scout award. So if you provide the opportunity for these young men and women, then I think you will find they respond, and they respond with a discipline that people my age didn't have at the time. And the other thing I find about young people, and this is as true at the college and it was at Texas A&M as any place, and that is young people by and large today, despite everything in our political environment, have a desire to serve in some way, to render some kind of public service.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you entertaining our questions. I'm going to ask you to stay up here with me for this next section, though, if you don't mind. So we thought it only fitting with Dr. Gates in the house this morning that we award one of our annual troop awards, which actually bears his namesake. So 1965 was the first time the Outstanding Scout Award was awarded that included Dr. Gates' name. So in March of 1965, they honored Dr. Gates by adding his name to the Landis Morrell Outstanding Scout Award. So it became in 1965 the Landis Morrell Gates Outstanding Scout of the Year Award. So in order to present that, to help me present that this morning, I thought it was only fitting that we get the 1965 recipient of that award and the senior patrol leader in 1965, Mr. Stuart M. Hughes II, to come up and help read the summary for that award. Mr. Stuart M. Hughes.
I'll try to make this easy, and here we go. The Landis Morrell Gate Award is named in honor of 3 College of William & Mary students who came to our troop in the 1960s to serve as assistant scoutmasters. These young men came to our troop wanting to help lead other young men on a path they saw as the direction for our future. Dan Landis spent a career as a lifelong educator in the local area, continuing to teach and provide leadership to our youth. He also was awarded the BSA Silver Beaver Award. Bill Morrell went on to attend the Brooklyn Law School, graduating in 1966, making a career practicing law in New York State, and where he continued his community service. Bob Gates went on to earn the master's degree and a doctorate's degree. He served in the CIA and the only person to rise through the ranks to become the director of the CIA, Secretary of Defense for 2 presidents, President Bush and President Obama. He also served as the president of the Boy Scouts of America and continues to serve as the chancellor of his alma mater, the College of William & Mary. The Landis Morrell Gates Award is earned by a scout who lives and exhibits the characteristics of all the other troop awards: leadership, service, camping, outdoor skills, and the scouting spirit. The scout lives the scout oath and law in his everyday life. He is a friend to all. This young man we can truly call the embodiment of a Boy Scout. This year, the 2024 Landis Morrell Gates Award goes to Thomas McQuest.
All right, give it up again for Thomas Berkeley. I surprised him on that one. All right, Mr. Gates, we're moving right along because I know your time is precious and you have other activities to attend to today.
Mostly a plane.
Mostly a plane? All right, sir, so that kind of ends the official portion. We did want to present you with some stuff, so if you would allow me. So I put together a small memento for you on behalf of the scouts, the committee, and the leaders in this troop. It's got a mini version of the Troop 103 flag for you to hopefully hang on the wall. We did a slim frame, so maybe it will fit somewhere. This is our 100th anniversary photo that was taken right here, where we're going to try to take a photo with you here in a few minutes. And then the plaque says, presented to Dr. Robert M. Gates in grateful appreciation, 18 May 2024, on the occasion of the celebration of 100 years of continuous scouting in Troop 103, Williamsburg, Virginia.
Thank
So, sir, if you... All right. And then, I had to draw attention to, so we got you some accoutrement we want you to leave with, sir. And I brought you your very own bag to carry all this stuff in, or get Tanner to carry it all in. So this is our new hat. So celebrating the 100 years, it says 100 years on this side. That's our heritage logo from at least what Mr. Nunn told me. This is the very first hat that came out of the box in 1999 for the 75th anniversary. So he wanted me to put his hat there just so you can see the original, and we're still carrying on the legacy. So we got you a hat. We've got you our signature neckerchief. We also did, that's the 100th anniversary shoulder patch. You can see it on my shoulder there, my other shoulder. That's our shoulder patch. Couldn't let you go off, sir, without giving you something. I know you're from Kansas, and you're out at Texas A&M where they wear the big belt buckles. So we needed you to have a Troop 103 100th anniversary commemorative belt buckle. And no former Secretary of Defense would be complete without a challenge coin. So at this time, this is going to end the formal portion of this. I'm going to ask the troop to meet Dr. Gates and I up on this stage, and we're going to stage a photo, much like this 100th anniversary photo, sir. Do you have any last words before we do that? Nope. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming. Please stay for refreshments afterwards. If Dr. Gates has got time, he might be willing to take a picture with somebody else, but we're getting to get the troop up here first. So come on, troop.
Yeah, you are.
Can't see me, please move so you can see me. Okay, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 3 times. I'm going to take 3 photos. We'll pass it to the next person. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Smile big. 1, 2, 3.